Where's my phone? ¿Quién me volteó? I need my phone.
My visitor is Santos, he's from Alton Church.
Santos, yes, you came.
Yeah, if you arrive with
Orlando. Guys, I'm inspired.
Uh-oh.
I'm excited.
Come on.
I'm tired.
We.
You know?
Yes, we are.
But I tell you what, if it was easy,
Everybody with you.
everybody doing it.
Amen.
But life is not easy. It's just not. You know, I've learned this. And I'm going to show you something that I saw that I believe I'm going to take all over the world. Serious.
Going to the top.
God has been doing things in our lives, and I say ours because my wife is here, that's pretty incredible. You know, and I'm basically going to go back to basics for you. Because that's where it all starts. If you want to change your life, you got to start with the basics. If you want to be a good basketball player, guess what? You have to start at the basics. If you want to learn remodeling, you have to start at the basics. You know what I mean? I've learned a few things about the basics of life, and I'm excited. You know, and I love teaching these things. You know, last week I think we spoke about having a desire. Y'all remember that? I've spoken about it before in these classes, about having a deep-rooted desire to do something with your life. This is the whole purpose of this class. It's like I tell men why I come to church. You know, I don't come to church to play church. It doesn't make any sense to me. Might as well go get high, right? And most people in here understand that. I didn't come here to play. I came here to change. I don't come here to just because I don't have anything else to do. Right? And when you learn that, your time is very valuable, and what you put your time into is very important, you know, change starts. But one of the things I want to show you that God showed me, He spoke to me through a tacuache. No, not him. And I was inspired by this because I saw something that maybe most people wouldn't see. They would have said, "Oh, that's so cute." Oh. But I saw death and hopelessness and selfishness and sin and wickedness and us men not being men but doing our own thing and leaving our families lost and confused. Because as men, we're called to be leaders. We're called to lead. And whether you like it or not, you're going to be a leader. The question is, what kind of leader? So I saw this, and I saw myself in this picture, and I think many of you may relate. I want you to look at this picture. And I want you to see that what I saw was, this is what we do. This is what drugs does to us. This is what sin does to us. This is what selfishness does. It kills you. And then you leave your family in the dust, alone, hopeless. Look at this picture. What do you see on top of that dead tacuache? I want you to see that. I want you to see that. When I saw that picture, a lot of memories came. It's a dead tacuache.
With the babies.
And I have 5 little babies on top of it, trying to find life. That's what happens when we destroy our lives. when we live a selfish life. When we decide we're gonna do what we wanna do, and we don't care about anything. We don't say it, but our actions say it. Because we live in a fatherless generation. Many of us, every one of us have a story here. Every one of us. You just told me right now that you were raised by your grandfather. You know, I've heard story after story about fathers that just left us. And left us to fend for ourselves. So my question is that what you want to do? That's what I want to know. Is that what you want to do with your life? I don't think so. See, this is why I came up with this name. People thought, I don't know what people thought, but as I was putting this together, choose to change. So simple. You know, it's a choice that we make to change our lives. To be better men. To be a leader. To learn some things. You know, let me give you an example. You know, as a man, you know, you may want a wife. You know, what would you want in a wife? Just think about that for a minute. I mean, in my mind, I remember I said, wow, I want my wife to love me, to be, you know, but it's all what I want. See? I didn't realize that I had to think, okay, what can I give? Right? So what are you going to give? You know, and this is what this class is all about. You know, and this thing is developing and we're learning and we're growing. You know, I want this to be a place where you learn something. And I'm going to teach you a couple of things today that I put together that I was thinking about. And we're going to talk about basics. You know, I always tell people, where do you start if you want to change your life? So today we're going to talk about the law of sowing and reaping. Anybody ever heard of that? I'm going to read it out of Matthew 13. If you have your Bible, I'm going to read it out of the Bible. The basics of life. We're going to learn something today about the basics of changing. If you want to change, John, right? You're both. No, you're John and Andrew. You're both Johns? Oh, man, that makes it easy for me. That way I'm going. They asked me, what's Zapata's brother's name? I said, Zapata. I would know, John. So, let me tell you something about basics. If you want to change your life, there's some basic things that we need to learn about life. But there's some basic things that you need to learn about basics first. Let me give you a couple of things about basics in life. These are real important. Listen closely to this. Basics are, you know, fundamental. You know, if you want to be a good basketball player, there's certain basics you learn, right? Well, 3 things I want you to remember about what I'm about to share. There's only a few basics. You got that? There's not 1,000. There's not 500. There's not an overwhelming amount. There's only a few when it comes to basics in anything. Because it's just a few things that, like you're learning in the trade, right? The remodeling trade. There's just a few little basics, right, that you've picked up. One of those basics are going to take you to the next level. But if you don't learn these basics, you're not going to go to the next level. So understand that the basics are very important. So first point is that there's just a few. Okay, and you do them over and over and over. Okay, next thing. There's no new ones. Okay? There's not going to be new, there might be new ways of looking at it and new ways of putting it into, you know, action. But the basics, there's no new basics. I heard the speaker say, you know, they're like antiques. You know, I'm manufacturing antiques. You can't manufacture antiques, right? So there's just a few. There's no new ones. And the last one is, once you get it, once you get it, you got it. That's awesome. And you just keep on doing it. keep on doing it. Like the basketball guys that are playing, right? Every game, the Spurs are playing. And before the game, what are they doing? They're practicing their basics. Because that's the important part. If you can't get the basics down, so remember those things. There's just a few, there's no new ones, and once you got it, you got it. Here we go. We're gonna learn about sowing and reaping today. And I'm just gonna go through it real quick. Listen to the story. It says, then he spoke, verse 13:1. Verse 13:3. 13:3. Listen to the story. Then he spoke many things to them in parables, saying, behold, a sower went out to sow. And as he sowed, some seeds fell by the wayside, and the birds came and devoured them. Some fell on stony places, and they did not have much earth, and they immediately sprang up because they had no depth of the earth. No depth. But when the sun was up, they were scorched, and because they had no roots, some of us have no root, they withered away. But some fell on thorns, and the thorns sprang up and choked them. But others fell on good ground and yielded a crop, some 100-fold, some 60, and some 30. He who has ears, let him hear. Does anybody want to say anything about this story before I say anything myself? The wayside? Yeah, what's the other one? Stony ground?
Rocky,
And what other one?
Thorny,
Thorns? What's the other one?
good soil.
Good. There's 3 grounds here. Gentlemen, everybody, all of us are at different levels in life. Financially, socially, mentally, physically, right? Emotionally. We all have troubles. And we all need to, if you want to change. Because this stuff is for those who want to change. You know, because you're here, you crossed over. So the question is, why is it so hard sometimes? Why do we stumble? Why do people get up and then come down? Get up and then come down. Right? We spoke about this last week. We know what to do, but then we don't do it. Right? Well, here's the reason. You can look at this as your heart. This is why we need God in our lives. You can look at this as your heart. You know, and some of us have a wayside heart. Some of us have a stony heart. Some of us have thorns. But all of us can start cultivating good soil in your heart. You know, when you hear something that they're preaching, this is basic stuff. I'm serious. Basic stuff. You reap what you sow. Right? So if you know what sowing is? No, that's sowing, like sowing something. But sowing is when you, like if you plant corn, that's sowing. You're planting. Sowing means planting. Sembrando. That's what sowing means.
You get what you give.
No, I'm explaining what sowing is. Sowing is when you plant. That's what it means. I'm gonna sow some seeds. I'm gonna plant some seeds. Okay? Reaping is you're gonna pick what you planted. So if you sow corn, what's gonna grow? But what? Corn. Right? If you sow or you plant corn, is it possible to get watermelons? No. Why? It's very simple. You get it? If you plant oranges, are you gonna get lemons? So this is the law of sowing and reaping. By the way, the basics. We're learning the law of sowing and reaping. This is what this is. This stuff is so simple that it goes right over our head. It's very simple. So, if you keep using drugs, right? Is that going to bring good things into your life or bad things? It's very simple. How basic can you get it? If you keep drinking, is that good or is that bad? It's simple stuff, guys. It's not rocket science. The law of sowing and reaping. See, that's why we start with, what do you want? Where are you going? Do you want to change? All you got to do is shift these actions. See, the reason I put this up here is because here's how this works. Your life should be centered around God, Jesus Christ, you, and your actions. You do that, well, that's the actions. But this is how it should be. Here's what I found out. Here's what I found out. God already did his part. Jesus Christ already came, died, and rose again. Now it's you. Now it's your turn to learn, to grow, to do what you have to do, to seek help, to learn the law of sowing and reaping. So what happens is that most of us come in with this broken heart, lonely, depressed, selfish, right? We're fighting against this heart of ours. So it has to be broken so that we can start getting to good soil. So then what happens is some good seed falls into, like tonight, you're going to hear some good stuff. And it's going to fall on this wayside. But there's no real. So what's going to happen is you're going to walk out and the wind's going to hit you. And you're going to trip. You're going to forget what I said. Just the winds of life. Right? So then some of us got stony ground. But what does it say about the stony ground? He says, let me read something. Some fell on the wayside and the birds came and devoured it. That's what I mean by the wind. You know what? Nomás te dijeron, esa cosa no jala. Y ya te creíste. And you went right back to where you live. ¿Para qué vas a la iglesia? Vos que eres muy holy ahora. Eh? Yeah?
And that was a bird.
It was just a little bird. Instead of shooing it away, you followed it. Stony ground. Some fell on stony places where there did not have much earth, and they immediately sprang up because they had no depth of the earth. But when the sun was up, they were scorched and because they had no root, they withered away. So that's what happens. We see I see this all the time. All the time. Because it's hard to cultivate a good soil, a good heart. It's hard.